On this episode of the OT for Life podcast, I'm bringing on a good friend of mine and fellow therapist buddy, Dr. Leo Valenzuela. Leo is a physical therapist, and he and I have been participating in an awesome mastermind group over the past year. We both had big projects that we wanted to start, and through the mastermind meetings, we set goals for each other, held each other accountable, and encouraged one another to accomplish our plans. We talk a lot about overcoming challenges and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones to reach our goals. I absolutely loved our chat, and I hope it will inspire some of you to go out and do something that you thought you couldn't do. If you're interested in occupational therapy, this is the place for you. This show aims to explore our profession by sharing who we are and what we do. Because for us, occupational therapy is more than just a job. Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome to OT for Life. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Really looking forward to the show that we have today. I guess I should start and probably explain how we know each other. And it's kind of a funny, interesting story, at least I think so. But actually, I was a patient of yours.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
Almost 4 years ago, which is really crazy to say right now.
I can't believe you brought that up earlier. Now I still can't believe it.
I know, right? It feels like just yesterday. But yeah, I guess I feel like we initially bonded because we both just happened to be turning 30, and I came in like maybe a week or two before my birthday, and then your birthday happened to just be a couple weeks after that.
Yeah, I gotta use all the old lady jokes.
And I was right there with you, like, oh my gosh, we're so old, and now it's been 4 years later, which is awesome. So I'd love to start with you telling our listeners a little bit about I should say, one of your favorite occupations, and that is these crazy long distance endurance running / hikes. Hikes.
Well, I don't think I'm exactly where I want to be yet, but I'm definitely getting into the ultra running scene and the crazy hikes, crazy mountain expeditions that people seem to continuously invite me to once they figure out I'm in good enough shape to make it. My most recent one is I took a hike in San Bernardino Mountains, the San Gorgonio 9-Peak Challenge, which was, as I described, as I've never been in such high distress for such a long period of time. I've run 30-mile races, I've run several marathons, and none of it was as hard as this. Elevation, being up at 10,000 feet for over 20 plus miles with a 40-pound bag, was pretty killer, as you can expect.
Yeah. So how did you actually get started doing that? I mean, what really spearheaded you to say, I think I want to take this on and I think I can do it? Growing
up, I was a soccer player. As the years started to pile on, I realized my body doesn't really like this that much anymore. So I started doing a lot more running. And in that community, I met a friend. And then I met another friend, and that friend's friend, eventually, he's a big wilderness guy. So he's been inviting me out to a few pretty big hikes. We did have a supai together, and he invited me out to this one. He was also an ultra runner, so we kind of bonded over that. He, for some reason, thinks I'm good enough to get away with these other crazy things.
Well, I think he's right, because I've heard these stories a lot, and I just sit there and I'm like, you are crazy. I love it, but you are so crazy, because I could never do it. And I mean, I've run a couple marathons myself, and I have no interest in doing anything even more than that. What do you feel like? I mean, besides the altitude on your last hike, what else was like really a big challenge for you?
Big challenge for me was being that it was the first time I ever hiked in 10,000 feet, so the altitude was hands down the biggest thing, but understanding how to control my nutrition and hydration in those, while under that stress, that was extremely hard. I'm used to running, and if I'm running, I know what I need. Every 45 minutes, I need something to eat. I need to be downing this much water, but I'm walking. I don't know exactly when I need what, or when I'm supposed to be eating this, or when all these things are supposed to be coming to me. My body kind of learned the hard way as I was dehydrated and starved for a lot of it just because I was ill-prepared. Luckily, I've had these 3 people with me, and they were amazing. They've done it a lot, and they really helped me get through the whole hike safely.
I feel like it's kind of one of those things that you can prepare for, and you think you're prepared, but then once you're like in the moment, it's potentially way harder than you actually thought it could be.
Yeah, and I'm very much one of those guys that says, somebody says, hey, you can do this. I'm kind of like, oh, really? You think so? All right, let's try it.
So I know you're planning on doing more longer running races, I should say. Any other endurance hikes on the radar for you?
I have, let's see, I'm doing the Marvin Broad Trail this summer.
Okay.
That's a 42-mile run. That's just my own event. It's not going to be, there's not going to be any aid stations on this. It's just going to be me and maybe a few friends that stop by every few miles and help me out. After that is a 50-mile race.
Okay, wait, hold on. Hold on. So you have to carry all your supplies with you?
Yep.
Unless you have somebody that parks along the side of the road.
Yeah.
For, what did you say, 42?
42 miles.
42 miles.
But it's an out and back, so I figure someone just stand somewhere and they can hand me a new bag, or I'll figure that part out when it comes to it.
Randomly dig them into the ground and then put a little like stake in there so you can you know where your pretzels are and your goos and whatever else you prefer to use.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, I am in awe of what you're doing. I can't do it.
But this is in preparation for a lot more, because I want to do the Grand Canyon. I want to do rim to rim to rim, which is a little bit longer, but it has way more elevation. I want to do 50-mile race. I want to run the Backbone Trail, which is 100K, and see where that takes me. Right now, that's as far as my aspirations have led me to think I can do. I kind of like diving in headfirst into a few things.
Well, maybe I'll be one of those friends that's just hanging out and handing you supplies, because I won't be doing it with you, but I'll be there supporting you all the way. What do you feel like doing these, I want to say challenges, I don't even know if that's the right word for something like that, these excursions, these experiences where you're really kind of pushing yourself to your limits and way past that. What do you feel like what has that taught you over the past couple months, couple years that you've been doing this?
So it's been 2 years. I've really been trying to push that aspect of athleticism to the limit. And it really has taught me that you kind of have to bring your whole life together if you're going to push yourself to that limit. Because you go into some dark places mentally at mile 18, 19, 20, and you still got a lot of race to go. So you start learning that you got to take care of yourself mentally, you got to take care of yourself physically, take care of yourself as far as your diet, spiritually, all of that stuff starts to work in, and you really start reprogramming your life to be as compatible to this hobby as it can be.
And being that, I myself have run some, they're long distance to me, they're not
You've
even
run marathons, you know the grind.
But I'm thinking in my head, even just the training for me was extremely difficult. Do you feel like the training is also preparing you for the race, or do you feel like during the race is really when you kind of reach that rock bottom of like that the mental, the physical, everything kind of comes together?
I think in the race it's really the culmination of all those hours of training and all the blood, sweat, and tears that are on the strand over here in the South Bay LA where all my training miles. But I just find so much joy in it after a while when you realize how much it's affecting so many other aspects of your life. That I ride that roller coaster of emotion on the long runs, but it always ends and I'm always in such a better place afterwards. So I really, really enjoy it, strangely.
Yes. Because every time you come back and you're like, oh, I just did this and it was awful and it was that and like almost passed out, and you're telling me all these like horrible things. And then in the next breath, you're like, and I'm going to go move on to this next one. And I'm so excited to try this one out. And I just look at you and I'm like, oh my goodness.
But it's pushing limits, right? You can't sit in the comfort zone forever. You have to find those new challenges, new ways of testing this life and what you can do. That is very, very tough for me, but
it's good. Yeah. I think it's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for everybody out there. And so I think this would be a great time to kind of talk about your new endeavor that you've been working on over the past couple months. When you're talking about testing boundaries and challenging yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, all this kind of stuff, I would love for you to share a little bit about what's been going on in your professional life and kind of the big leap that you've taken.
So, as you've probably already told everybody, I'm a physical therapist. I work at a private outpatient clinic here in LA, and I've recently decided to start a side gig. It's a cash-based physical therapy clinic working out at gyms, homes, and pretty much I don't have any brick and mortar. There's no rent to pay. I'm not taking any insurance. I'm also not leaving my current job. So this is something I'm starting, something that I have been working on for a few months to try and get together, figure out the logistics. And again, something I had absolutely no idea what I was getting into, but somebody very close to me told me, "Hey, Leo, you can do this." And I decided, sure. If you think so, maybe I can. Let's give it a shot.
I'm going to jump in here because I know I was one of those people, but I was not the only one. There have been a lot of people that I have heard, and I'm sure there's been people I haven't even heard, like I don't even know in your life that have told you to do that. I knew from the start, I'm like, this guy's awesome. He's a great therapist. Aww. He needs this. And then I think it was your birthday party last year, and like 5 of your friends were like, yeah, you all need to do this. And I was like, yep, okay. That you guys are right. Like that just totally solidified that I knew what I was talking about as well. So yeah, super proud of you for really kind of taking that step. And it's not easy being somebody that has also gone through the process of starting a private practice. There are so many things to learn. And I think when we're in school, we learn theory, we learn clinical skills, and kind of practical applications of what we need to do for our job. Of course, I'm an occupational therapist, you're a physical therapist, so some of the stuff that we've learned is very, very different. But now all of a sudden when you start, or when you even consider to start your own practice, you're not just learning clinical skills and you're not just learning theory anymore. Now all of a sudden we have all these new skills that we have to learn and start integrating and start doing.
Business, finance, marketing, all these things that aren't taught to us, but are very learnable. As I'm diving deeper, I'm starting to realize how much of it you kind of have to sit down and read through, and how much of it you need some mentorship or just somebody to talk through with it. Because there's some people who are really, really good at this stuff, and they can offer you some things that you're not going to find in a book and you're not going to figure out on your own.
Yeah, would you mind elaborating a little bit more on that? Do you feel like it was people that you already have a connection with within your life, or were you reaching out to people that you didn't know? Where were you making those connections to help guide you through this?
I believe I've been blessed with a lot of amazing people in my life. So I didn't know they were there actually in this capacity. As soon as I started, all these people who I've known forever are like, oh, that's what I do. Oh, you need someone to design a website. That's what I do. You need an accountant. Oh, I don't do that, but so-and-so does, or this is the one that I use, and they're amazing. And you get to, all those things start to come up, things that you have no idea that were so close to you and so available and seem so foreign are actually much more available once the subject starts up.
It's almost like once you open the doors, once you open that opportunity of like, hey, I'm putting myself out there, all of a sudden these things just start kind of coming out of the woodworks where you're like, wait a second.
Manifest it into the universe and it just shows up in front of you.
I love it.
I think it's beautiful. So
yeah,
I've been lucky. I've had all these people come out of the woodworks, and people who you're just nice to people around you. That's just what we do. All of a sudden these things start coming back, and it's been absolutely amazing. All the teeth that I thought I would be pulling, and fears that I thought about finding, all these crazy different things that I have never once been taught, kind of started to flutter away. Not that easily, but I started to get the hang of it after a while.
Let's go back a little bit. What would you say your aha moment? When were you like, I like where I'm at, but I want to start my own practice?
Probably one of those days where you were yelling at me to do it.
I like your honesty.
No, it was, again, I think it goes back to running about a year ago. And the fact that I realized I wanted more time, and I wanted more in many other aspects of my life. And the way I'm going right now and the way my current career is headed, it doesn't vibe completely with me. I was actually looking up, nonprofits, leaving the state, or starting my own business. And back then, this was a year ago. Back then I was saying, well, I'm not going to start my own business because that's crazy. I don't know. I have no idea how to do that. Nonprofits aren't going to really work or pay as much as I need. And I don't want to leave South Bay, California, South Bay, LA, California. I really can't live anywhere else. I was kind of stuck at that point. I actually was at our CPTA, our California Physical Therapy Association seminar last September. And one of the people there, one of the seminars was how to open your own cash-based PT clinic. And I was like, all right, well, that sounds like one I can sleep through. Let me just go to that one. I was in there with actually one of my coworkers, and this guy just said all the right things. Everything that I've been wanting to hear. It's super encouraging. Gave us this pretty much a blueprint of how to get started. Not enough to actually get things off the ground, but enough to encourage us that it can be done. That's when, I looked back at my options and I looked at moving out of the state. That's still not happening. Nonprofit's still not happening. So let's look into this. Because it was in San Diego, I was actually staying with my friend who was a financial advisor. And so I went back to his house. I told him everything that I heard, and he goes, Leo, that's the best option for you. And I was like, oh yeah, you're a financial advisor. I forgot that. And he went on and told me all the good reasons as to why I do it, and I was all right. The whole drive home, I was listening to a few podcasts that the gentleman who gave the seminar was on, and again, more inspiration.
Were these physical therapy podcasts?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was just more like mindset and testing yourself type podcasts of like personal growth, or actually related.
It was specifically cash-based physical therapy podcasts and what to look for and how to what are the different obstacles that you have to go through. So, and then you turned me on to a few more, which have been amazing, and now we're like super fans of them.
Okay, so yeah, we're totally gonna fangirl and boy it up here, but let's give a shout out to the ones that stand out to you, and then I'll jump in if there are any others that stand out to me, because I want to say for a couple months I kept telling you need to listen to these podcasts. What you're doing, you need to listen to these podcasts. And every time we'd meet back up and you're like, oh yeah, I haven't listened to it yet. So
you were begging me to start listening to Danny Mattei. And I was like, I'm already listening to one. I think I'm okay. Little did I know. You were absolutely correct. Yes, that's on record.
Did my husband hear that? Well, we'll make sure that he listens to this part. Don't edit this part out.
Yeah, it was, and it's great. And he has given so much information, and we're on the Facebook group, PT Entrepreneur Facebook group, getting a lot of information from there as well. And
I love the fact that I listen to a lot of physical therapy podcasts, and I think a lot of people kind of believe that I'm strange because I do that, but again, I'm all about this kind of collaboration and learning from people that have already been doing it, regardless if we're in the exact same field or not. And so I remember when they started that Facebook group, and I remember being like, I really want to be a part of it, but I'm not a PT. I wonder if they're going to accept me into the group. And they did, and I was like, sweet. And I think there's a handful of us that are not PTs, but
they accepted you before they accepted me.
I think just because I got my name in there first.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was a timing thing. I don't think it was a profession thing. There have been a few other people that are not PTs that are in that group, and I think it just adds to the dynamic of it, of like, hey, we're also going through this or potentially trying to set it up ourselves. We can all learn from each other, regardless if we're PT, OT, SLP, anything like that.
And I think having that community so close and so available is incredibly important. Even just having someone to talk to, and the things that we would do over the last, what did we say?
10 months.
10 months.
10 months. So let's dive in. Let's dive into this. One of the big things that Leo and I have been doing, and it really just kind of started as a, hey, let's get together. I have some questions about starting a business on your end. But we kind of dovetailed that into our own little OT PT mastermind group. And it is just the two of us, and it is the most fantastic group ever. And
two highly empathetic people just going at it once a month.
For me, like, it has been this complete kind of pivotal and just this change, this thing that I started incorporating into my life that's been absolutely amazing. And I really think the big part of this group and what it's done for me, and I think this probably goes across the board, is that accountability.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Having someone make you take responsibility for what you've done in the last month. And they're going to sit there and they're going to ask you, we set these goals, where are you? That is extremely motivating. And it reminds you at those times where you don't really want to do something, but you're like, oh, Sarah's going to yell at me if I do this, or if I don't do this. So, and also having someone to throw ideas back and forth with. Again, Sarah, you've owned your company for how long?
A little over 3.5 years now.
All right. So I could present you with these questions and I have no idea. I don't know where this is going. I don't know where do I just get started? And you're a wealth of information as far as that. And I could ask you a question and you can reframe it back to me better. And then I can answer my own question just because you're telling me more properly what exactly I'm looking for. Having that type of accountability and that person to throw these ideas off with, back and forth with, is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and I think, especially when it comes to pretty much changing your life, I think that's a big phrase, but I think it's true. When you create a private practice, you are changing your life. You are getting out of your comfort zone. You are doing something that you've never done before. And even though starting the practice is a professional reason, right? But so many life aspects also tie into that. And within our mastermind meetings, even though they are very focused on starting the practice and growing, I should throw in that my piece of the mastermind was actually starting this podcast. So yes. As Leo was kind of talking about starting his own practice, here I was like, well, here's my idea. I don't know what I'm doing about this, but I want to start a podcast. And so as you can tell now, it's coming to fruition and really trying to get that off the ground. But I feel like there were so many of these other things in life that we had to first address, become aware of. It's not just professional reasons. We really, in some of our meetings, we've talked really heavily about spiritual stuff, meditation. I know that was a big thing for you. We really had to kind of dive into like finances and time management, stress management, like all of these kind of outside factors that all kind of play a role into what we're doing.
And I think once you start discovering those different limiters that you have that exist within all those other aspects, then you open yourself up to allow whatever you're trying to build actually begin to grow. The look into this is taking my energy. I'm wasting a lot of energy in with these activities. I'm not building my energy by doing these activities. I never feel like I have time. I'm always tired. Well, what are the things that you do that increase your energy? How do you gather energy? What are you adding into your life that's allowing you to do more with the time that you have? And what are you doing that's just wasting your time? We did apps for a little while. We had so many ideas of different ways that we can better manage our time. That way we can get more done. And in that process, we started noticing, early on, we're like, all right, here's 5 goals that we need to do for next. And we'd show up and like, oh, we got 1 done. But you know what? That's good. We got 1 done. We got 1 done that we wouldn't have done if we didn't meet. And if we didn't meet again. And as things started going on, the second time, we got like 3 of them done. And by the 3rd, 4th time, we were not just doing those. We would say, you know what? I was going to do this, but then I made it better and I did this instead. And sure, that's great. If you just would have neglected it, then all right, we got some words, woman.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel like, again, it goes back to that accountability piece of, this is my idea and I'm scared out of my mind to start it, right? I think we both went through that of like, we don't know where to start. Can we do it? Are we good enough? Kind of that imposter syndrome. And yeah, like, of course we didn't meet all of our goals, but just by setting them, we were 1 step, 2 step, 5 steps better than we were the month before. And then we also gained all that awareness of like, okay, I set that goal. Yeah, maybe that wasn't the best goal for me, but because I set that goal, I learned this other aspect about who I am or how I manage my time, or maybe something, for example, I'll call myself out on this one, but Leo had been talking about, in our meetings, he had been saying that I need to start focusing time for me, right? And I was like, yeah, well, but I don't have time because I'm running my company and I always have students and I do a lot of traveling and I do this and I do that. And I have all of these reasons of why I could never focus on myself. And I think we ended up setting a goal for it. But what I realized was I didn't need one more stressor to say, hey, you need to focus on yourself. I needed to just go and do it. And so even though I don't think I quite met that goal for that month, it kind of opened my eyes of like, I need to look at myself right now and I need to take time for myself. So I think in a positive mindset, just knowing like, hey, even if you fail on your goals, or you fail in one of the steps along the way, as long as you're continuing to kind of push yourself and keep going, you're going to make progress.
And now here we are, less than a year later. I just got my articles of incorporation and we are recording a podcast together.
I actually really hadn't thought about that until we started this conversation. I think I was really focused on like being happy for you and supporting you. And I was like, I can't wait to bring him on the podcast and promote his business and all this kind of stuff. And I really hadn't taken, and this totally goes back to what I was just saying, but I hadn't taken and turned it on myself and realizing that I'm actually doing what my goal was as well. So kind of crazy, but here
fantastic,
we are.
Just fantastic at the same time.
So what do you think, like maybe some of the hardest parts of going through this process of starting your own business has been?
I think hands down the first thing that was the hardest was getting past myself and the things within me that said I can't do it, because everything else, like I said, the second I strapped my bootlaces up and got working, it came to. But until I was able to sit there and say, look, I can do this, I can accomplish building a business, I have somebody to help me out, I have apparently this huge community of people that will also help me out, that I just started taking the journey. And it's a hard thing to do, getting past yourself, because it's one of your first filters, that when somebody says do this, you're immediately like, no, I can't because of A, B, C, and D, when none of that is real. That's just you taking in whatever past experience and trying to apply it to the future. So getting past that, and again, having someone to sit there and point it out to you. Like, is that real, or is that just you using your own self-limiters to justify why you're not going to be successful? That was probably the hardest thing to get past. After that, things start to get a lot easier, but then with anything else, consistency. Consistency is me personally, I don't think, as far as keeping the motivation, I like to have some people around me to help me keep that motivation to say, hey, where is this? And that's what the Mastermind, that's what those meetings did. They helped me keep that consistency. I knew I was meeting up with somebody. No, she's not going to be part of my business. No, she's not even in my field completely. But she is, or he, or anybody who you can meet up with, is going to be there to help you work through it. And they're going to motivate you through the whole thing. So if you're somebody who says, I'm going to do this, and a month later it goes away, well, maybe you should start thinking about bringing somebody else in and with some similar goals, or just somebody who's trying to start something in any capacity, and see if you guys can help each other out and maintain that consistency.
I think the consistency is huge. I know for myself, like over my entire life, I've had so many things that I'm like, I'm going to do that. I tell all my friends, and then 2 months, 3 months, 6 months later, whatever, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of onto something else. Oh, I'm totally going to do that. And I've never really kind of like sat down and done it. There's only been a handful of things that I have done to that level. And that makes me sound like I really haven't done anything in my life. Major things. Let's go with that. And it is pretty interesting because the whole time as you're talking about this community, I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, the reason that I have accomplished these big goals is because I've had other people there that believe in me, and they're there, they're supporting me, they might have answers to my questions, or at least be able to kind of point me in the right direction or in a direction, and then I kind of go from there. And so I love that word that you said, consistency, accountability. It's huge. This
practice isn't my first attempt at beginning some form of program. I've tried to start ACL prevention programs, like a summer program. Come train with us. We'll teach you the exercises that can keep you from, keep whatever sports team from, will diminish the amount of ACL tears you'll have in the future. And they all just they start revving up, and none of them ever take off. And one of the big things that I've noticed was the people that I was working with, we never kept going with it. And the second things start to fall off, there was nobody dragging everybody back on and saying, we need to keep this going. It was too easy just to say, it's not going to work. Yeah, I know we got some good ideas, but it's not going to work, and let's just keep going. And there was also the idea that I needed other people to be involved in this in order for me to have something take off. And when somebody else starts to falter, I'm like, this isn't going to work. We're never going to succeed in this. Doing this on my own, I've actually noticed that when I start to falter, it's just me. And I can't let that happen, which is scary also.
Right. But I honestly think that's just kind of a natural part of going through the process of starting your own business, starting your own practice. Yes, we are potentially talking to mainly other therapists or students that are going into physical therapy, occupational therapy, anything like that. But I think this could go across the board of anybody starting a business. And really kind of what you said, like having to get over yourself and then push past those boundaries that you enforce on yourself. Whether it's that you don't think you can do it, whether you don't think you have the time, whether you think there's already other people that are doing it. What value am I bringing? There's already thousands of other practices out there. And I speak for my practice as well. I went through this. It's a very kind of humbling aspect, I guess we could say, and just kind of overall very interesting, I guess, process to go through. So I asked about the hardest part of starting your business. What do you feel like the most exciting part is? Whether it's something that you're going to be doing now, or in the next couple of months, or even if you have kind of a future goal or a future hope that your company, your business will move towards.
I think in the near future, the most exciting part for me is jumping into this whole marketing field. I really feel like it's going to take me out of a couple of my bubbles. I can't just send emails. I can't just make phone calls. I'm going to have to go up to gym owners, sell myself, sell my practice, and really display the passion that I have for what I do and refine that skill. That said, I think it's the most exciting to me because it's the scariest part for me. And based on previously in this conversation, I like to do things that scare me. So that's probably the near future. I've started, as more steps come on, as I start to tackle more aspects of this business, I start to get more and more ideas about what capacity this can grow to. Having employees, teaching seminars, weekend seminars, con ed courses, traveling, having the freedom to travel. I'm tired of hearing you leave every single month and not being able to schedule our next mastermind meeting because you're in South Africa or Iceland and I'm going to be running 10 miles on the beach again. And that's been a big motivator for me is also the fact that I will have a bit more freedom to travel.
Yeah. And honestly, like kind of what you're saying, it's opportunity. It's opportunity to do what you want to do. You don't have to fit into the role of the employee of what somebody wants you to do. You have to be here from 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or, whatever the hours are. And you have to have all these productivity demands and you have to do this and you have to do that. It's you. And you can work as much as you want. You can work as little as you want. You can work your butt off for a month and then take the next month off. You really have that opportunity and that flexibility and freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do.
The autonomy of the whole starting your own business. With all that responsibility, you also get the freedom to be and practice the way that I would like to. Not the way that anybody else expects me to. And definitely not the way the insurance companies want me to. So that is extremely exciting for the next steps.
Yeah, I think both of us listen to the cash-based podcast that we listen to. And I have found so much inspiration and motivation because I do not accept insurance. I do cash-based and I have a couple other avenues that I do. And I always thought that I was doing something wrong because majority of practice owners out there accept insurance because that's just what we do. And I personally chose not to do it, but I always had this inkling in the back of my head of like, ugh, maybe I'm missing out on something. Maybe I should be doing that. And listening to these podcasts, and we'll definitely link to them in the show notes so you guys can go and check them out because they're awesome. And also just talking to other people that are doing the cash-based model has really just inspired me to say, you know what, like I'm doing the right thing for me and it works and it's great and we don't have to be doing what everybody else is doing.
Right. You don't have to sit there and say, hey, for the proper reimbursement, I need to be doing 2 units of this and 2 units of that, and let's throw every single modality at this person that we'll get reimbursed for just so we can barely make enough money to earn a decent paycheck. It's going to be, let's get paid what we deserve to be paid because we're very, very educated people. Frankly, we're good at what we do. So let's get reimbursed properly for that, and let's give these people the type of care that they need. We're not pushing them, 5 patients an hour just to again get those reimbursements that we want, and that's the only way that we can actually make up the business. Mm-hmm. Let's give them the time that they need. It's going to cost, but we're not going to keep them as long. Mm-hmm. We're not going to see them for 6 months, twice a week. Because we're giving them what they need, they're going to pay less in the long run because they're not coming in for as many sessions.
And I think that's powerful. And I'm sure there's a couple people out there that are like, what? Like, this is foreign. What are you guys talking about? But I really think that this is kind of the change of the future of, at least in therapy, and I'm sure in other professions as well, is like we don't have to go based on what's dictated to us. Of course, we're going to adhere to our best practices and the research that's coming out and all of that. But ultimately, it goes down to what is best for the client. How can we get them better? If we need 2 hours in one day to get them and then we don't need to see them for 3 months, why not go that route? Rather than, well, I only get 45 minutes, but I can only be with you for 15 of that. So then we're going to set you up with all this other stuff. It really just gets into what is best for that client at that moment.
I think that's one of the things, like you said, you kind of feel guilty, like you're only treating a certain population. But if you open up the rest of the population to what's available and they realize that this is actually better healthcare than what you're getting, then that guilt goes away because you understand that what you're doing is the right thing. You get to do what you want to do. They get the care that they need. Everyone's happy.
I'm like loving everywhere that we're going with this right now. And I find myself that I'm like, wait, we have to go back because there's so much more that I want to talk about. I'd really like to discuss just a little bit more about this transition that you're going through right now of starting your practice, but as you mentioned in the beginning, that you are continuing your full-time job at the moment. Tell us a little bit more about that mindset of why you're choosing to do it that way and potentially how that transition will continue after this point.
First of all, why I want to start with the side gig rather than just jumping in head first. I would like to not have the crazy amount of stress that opening up a business would entail if I have no net. I can open up a business and have a safety net, then why not do it? And give myself that time to let it grow. I can work weekends. Again, if I'm practicing the way that I want to practice, I'm not seeing people 3 times a week. I don't need to make myself that available. If I get 1 or 2, 3 gyms that will say, yeah, why don't you come in, Saturday mornings, and every week Saturday mornings for 3-4 hours and treat some people. Great. I only need to see them once a week. I don't need to give up every single day for that. And then as that grows, as more gyms hear about me, as my name gets out there and my marketing gets better, I can then start to take on more days, more hours, and slowly move away. I don't have to give up my health insurance. I don't have to give up my dental. I don't have to give up my benefits. None of that needs to move. And I also don't have to figure out how to do it yet. Because I have my head in all these other things, it's nice to have something settled with my full-time career already. It's also been suggested that the best way to start these types of practices, these cash-based practices, is as a side gig. Just because you don't really understand your community is how I understand it. And you don't understand yourself as a business owner because we're not taught how to do any of this stuff. So you're learning, and as you learn, that safety net is very important, and it's available, so take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and I kind of went through the same thing of starting out with low overhead. Mainly what you're giving up right now is your time. Some weekends, maybe some evening appointments or early morning, something like that. But mainly it's your time. But you also have a little bit lower stress. I mean, of course, starting a business is stressful, but a little bit lower stress knowing that you have these big changes, but you have that safety net. You have other things in place. So if you encounter some hardship, or if something doesn't quite go exactly how you want it to go in that moment, you have something else that you can kind of fall back on until you really get your feet wet and get out there. There's been a lot of stuff going on in your life over the past year, call it, right? Mm-hmm. You said last September, when you really had that moment of like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm in it. I'm going to figure it out. What would you say to somebody who was in those shoes? During that seminar in September, if you could reach out to them right now, what would you tell them?
I would say, A, surround yourself with good people. Good people that can take you where you want to go, and that will be encouraging. That will be positive. I would tell them to go easy on themselves when they're not as productive as they want it to be. And they think, some people say, oh, you know what? I didn't do anything this month. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be able to hold a business together because I was supposed to do A, B, C, and D, and I only did A and B. Like if I own a business, it'll go to trash. You're learning how to do all this stuff. Forgive yourself, be fine with what you did, and move on. Just continue to progress. Understand what motivations you were having at those moments, and keep pressing forward. Keep that consistency going. Keep those people close to you that can make you accountable for continuing with your endeavor.
I think that's it. That is it right there. I've kind of been jotting down notes as we've been talking today, and I have written the word community about 1 million times. Throughout what you've been talking and kind of the emotion that I've been gathering from the conversation, it really is. It's having that community, having people that you can go to, that you trust, that will push you forward, that will call you on your stuff as well and be like, hey, I don't think that's right, and make you kind of question and push yourself forward. Really just kind of getting outside of that comfortable little bubble that we are all in, you know, our perspective, our life, and really trying to get us to progress and move out of that and continue. Even if it's hard, even if it's scary, even if it's maybe something you can't even think of at the moment. Like, I know before I started my practice, say a decade ago, I never would have thought I would be in this room right now having this conversation.
Having a podcast, having your own business going for so long.
So long, yeah. But like, I think it will be really interesting, and I don't even know if we've talked about this yet, but I would love to have you come back on maybe a couple months down the road, touch back and see kind of where you're at, what's going on.
Absolutely, would love to.
Awesome.
Yes.
And
But really quick, going back to the community idea, the careers that we've chosen, occupational therapy and physical therapy, a lot of people find it hard to look and find people who can have that type of positivity and support. But if you really look at the type of people who do the things that we do, it's a lot of people who really are built to support other people. That's what we do day in and day out. And I think a lot of those people will manifest themselves as soon as you start putting that out. You were in my life for a long time before I just said, hey, you know what? I need some help with the business. And now look where we are and what's come of that. As soon as you start asking the questions, as soon as you start putting that out there into the universe, these things will begin to manifest in ways you didn't expect. Having the courage just to start that up, well, you'll see the ball roll so quickly.
I think both of us won't even know at this moment what's going to happen a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now. And I don't know if it's happened yet, but it will happen. People are going to start coming to you and saying like, hey, Leo, I want to start my own practice. What do I do? And you sit there and you're like, I don't know. I just figured it out myself. But I'll point you in the right direction. And I think that really just ties right back into you and I and the people that are in our professions want to help others. And we want to foster change in the world, change in the healthcare system, change for our clients, just change across the entire board. And we're here to support people as they do that. And I think I didn't really know that going into like, yeah, I just want to start my practice. I want flexibility. I want to be able to travel, like almost everything you said. And then all of a sudden it's turned into, well, if I can do it, anybody else that is really passionate about starting it and doing their own thing if you want to do it, you guys can do it too. There's nothing special about myself. I had the community around me. I had the drive to do it, and I failed, but I picked myself back up and I was able to accomplish those goals.
Right, and you're finding other avenues on how to foster those ideas and get those ideas out to other people, which is why I think I was so supportive of you starting the podcast. You have all these other avenues that you love just to get things out there, and that has a lot to do with the people that get into these types of professions, and that should continue to be in these types of professions.
Right. Gosh, I feel like we could just go on and on and on about this. But let's do a little plug for your business here. And why don't you tell us the name of your business, and if people want to reach out and follow you on social media, how would they go about doing that?
The name of the business is Los Leones Physical Therapy. You can follow me on Instagram at Los Leones PT, or you can check out my website, which is www.losleonespt.com.
All right. Let's wrap this up. We've had some really good stuff here, and I really hope that our listeners get some value out of this and find some inspiration in your story, because I'm inspired by you, and I'm so pumped of everything that you've accomplished so far, and really excited to see where this business and where this new opportunity takes you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with me today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. This is an absolute pleasure. And we've been talking about doing this for a long time, and just to see it come to fruition, it warms my heart, honestly. I can't say enough how happy I am to not only be here, but also be here and be able to present to you the fact that I'm opening my business.
It's awesome. It's great. And it's really, really exciting. So we're definitely going to have you back on, and make sure that anybody that is interested, that potentially is in the area, that's looking for some PT services, I know a good person. So thanks again, and we will chat later. Hey, before you go, I just wanted to say thanks for listening to today's episode. If you want to further the discussion, go to our website, otforlife.com, and join our Facebook group. If you like us, here are 3 easy ways to let us know. 1. Share our podcast with a friend, colleague, or anyone interested in occupational therapy. 2. Leave us a review on iTunes or anywhere this podcast is found. 3. Subscribe to us so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Thanks again. We'll catch you next time, OT for Lifers.